All right, there we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the solid start. Welcome to the pilot episode of the Frostie and Flake show. Just a little project me and Flake here have been working on, and wanted to sort of test it today, see what's going on. Two topics today. First one we're gonna jump into right away. Gonna be news from around the gaming world. So, picked out a few articles to test out, to read out. For me, there was a pretty interesting one today that I saw. G2A back in the news. I don't know if you guys, like we talked about this a little bit earlier, G2A key selling site.
Now, one thing I just want to say is, Frosty, if you're going to be telling the news, you need to become prepared with like a stack of papers that you just do this with.
Oh shit! Okay, hold on.
No, it just makes it look more official this way. Even though you could be honestly just spewing out your own ass about things that don't make sense or that aren't true. It doesn't matter. It looks official this way.
Yeah, there you go.
I believe in you.
Believe in me. But G2A is back in the news after, I guess they hit the news with trying to get developers to publish articles without disclosing that G2A paid them. Which
sounds totally legal and on the level, like right? That
yeah,
does not sound
I would
shady.
read that and be like, yeah, that's totally normal. But I guess they're trying to solve their sort of fraud problem with
just a casual problem to have, like herpes.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's like gaming herpes. It's just fraud. I mean, everyone
just
does
casual
it, right?
fraud. But they're proposing a key blocking tool to developers to use, but only if like 100 developers sign up for it. Otherwise, they won't do it. It's like.
So explain what key blocking is exactly.
So basically, what they're trying to do is try and allow developers to block keys if they've been stolen. So what happens is somebody steals like a credit card, purchases a bunch of keys from a developer, and then posts it on a key selling site, and somebody from wherever purchases through the key selling site and then goes and redeems it on Steam or whatever. The developers have to honor that key even though they know it's been stolen. So this allows them to say, hey, X amount of keys were stolen or fraudulently purchased. They will not be resold.
Right.
And that's what they're trying to do, but
the weird thing about this, that seems like, but what if they're the ones that are selling the shitty keys? You know, so
like the developer.
Well, no, not necessarily the developer, but like, because G2A sells the keys as well, don't they?
No, it's third party.
Okay, it's just, I mean, this whole like I rarely kind of buy from third party if possible. I mean, then again, it's like if I don't buy it off Steam, I'm not really like. I think the one time I ever bought something off of like a third party key site was for a game that probably cost like $4 to begin with, so I'm pretty sure the profit margins off of theft in that case was not worth it regardless. And I think, what did I get? I think I got like Age of Empires 2, like a remastered version of it or something like that, and never really anybody for catching up on that. But yeah, I mean, it's news, I guess. It just seems kind of shady in a certain degree, where especially when you put like a minimum of like, okay, if you're allowed to come to the party if you bring 99 of your friends, otherwise there's no party. Like, it just doesn't seem weird. It seems a little bit weird to me.
Oh, and check this. They put a time limit on it. So they will only do this if 100 developers sign up within a month.
Okay, so like none of that. It's just, and there's like an RSVP sort of like time bomb on it too.
Oh man, this company. I can't stress it enough. Please, I cannot say to purchase keys off of this site
unless they want to sponsor us. In which case, then please go ahead and purchase keys from that site.
Dude, I don't even know if they sponsor anybody anymore. Well, kind of crazy.
But the thing about, didn't you say that if they did sort of sponsor, then we would never know about it because they tell you?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, they tell you not to disclose.
So we don't know. We might actually be sponsored by them. We don't know. You'll never know.
You'll never know.
Sure. So I got a little piece of news that I'm a little bit excited about that I want to share, and it's nothing that people don't know necessarily, but I know that when it came to competitive gaming, my roots of online gaming originate with Xbox 360, and Halo 3 is essentially where I got my toes really wet with playing online regularly and sort of creating your crew. So the Master Chief Collection being announced for 2019 is something that I'm kind of getting a little excited about in the pants, because that sort of rekindles not only my own urge to game in a first-person shooter environment that isn't Overwatch, let's say,
Right.
but also like all my buddies are just sort of disowning their own children to be like, all right, I'm back in. Like, I guess I can get divorced now and go back to
Halo?
being
All right, let's go. Blood Gulch?
yeah, Blood God, Valhalla, the Pit. Like, these are all like words that sort of get my buddies hard when you sort of whisper it in their ears. Like, this is something that they'll actually just divorce their wives for and be like, okay, if all 5 of us are in, we have a crew, I will get divorced and play this game. Like, that's kind of where it comes down to. So anywho, I don't know what your thoughts on this, if you were a Halo guy yourself, or how excited you are to
I
venture down
mean,
that route again.
I used to play. One of the first games I ever owned was Halo for the Xbox, and like, or I say first I own, meaning I purchased with my money.
That's yours,
So
man.
yeah,
They'll
so
never
it
take that away
does
from you.
it does hold a special place in my heart, and you know, it's nice that it's coming to PC. It should have always been on PC. I don't know
Yeah,
at what point they ever decided they should not have had it.
but I think the original one was Combat Evolved. I
Yes,
think was actually a PC game. It just
yes,
didn't
it
have
was.
a
And
multiplayer
it
element.
used like the GameSpy tunnel to like connect people in
Oh,
multiplayer
was there
matches.
an
Yeah,
online? I had no clue. Back then was like
wasn't
Game went
wasn't
for like 2
good.
days.
It wasn't good,
Yeah,
but I am happy it is coming to PC now, and I might give it a shot. We'll see. Um, I missed out on, I think Halo was it 3, 4, anything after 3. I never really played.
yeah. 4 came out and kind of changed a little bit about how, like, that's when they had supply drops and loadouts and stuff. They kind of went to the modern warfare route
Mm.
of being able to somewhat customize your dude. And then I don't even know anything about Halo 5 or anything beyond Halo 4, but Halo 3 is kind of that's the thing. And the Halo franchise, I think, is where you sort of, that was the birth of the teabag, wasn't it? Like, that's where that came from.
Yeah, that and fighting games.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, fine.
But
Like,
yes, I would
that's
say first-person shooters definitely pushed it a little bit with Counter-Strike and Halo for sure.
the teabag. The
The
teabag is
teabags.
iconic. If there was like a Smithsonian for online gaming, there would be there would be a
One
section of it.
section for teabags.
Yeah, of just all the historical teabags and like the most iconic teabags. And I think
Sponsored
that
by
there would be
Lipton.
yeah, Lipton would be there, absolutely. Tetley brings you the Halo bag, and it would just literally be Master Chief. And I'm picturing it now in my mind. And you walk in, and in the center of it, behind this like glass case, is just this mechanical Master Chief, just constantly teabagging the dude. And that would be the end of the tour of the Teabag Museum. All right.
Nice.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
that's what
that's
got
cool.
me excited in the news, at least, and I'm sort of keeping an ear to the ground about that one.
Yeah, some of the other stuff that I was seeing today too, that the Marvel's Avengers game by Crystal Dynamics is going to be shown at Comic-Con and actually reveal gameplay. So they showed I guess, a teaser trailer at E3, but not really any gameplay at all. So apparently, at Comic-Con, they are going to be hosting a panel and showing off footage along with some more details about the game. Are you excited for this game?
So I'm excited for most Marvel stuff. The only issue is that, I mean, I don't have that much time to invest in a lot of games. And then this PS4 Spider-Man game came out, and I don't have a PS4, and that almost put me over the edge to throw down a couple $100 to actually pick one up with the system. Marvel in general is always an easy sell for me. Marvel
Yeah.
and Star Wars will always reach into my pockets all the time. The only thing is that I actually spent money to go buy a Switch purely for the reason that they announced, like, when they announced that Marvel Ultimate Alliance was coming out, that put me over the edge to buy a Switch. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm gonna go and buy and get involved in this game so much, though it does sound interesting. Like, the way that you described to me the game off air was how it's kind of in a similar like Anthem in terms of
It's
mechanics.
Yeah,
But
it seems to be like an Anthem style because they described it as a live service game, which that's what Anthem is, or
right.
Destiny, any of those.
Yeah, and that seems great. And if they have a sick roster, and like you said, if there's not like 10 Hulks, but everybody has to pick one dude and sort of go about doing their
Yeah.
own thing and team, like that could be cool. If there's a good teamwork element. I don't know much about the game. I'm more so connected to Marvel Ultimate Alliance. It's a game that I played with a lot of my buddies, and it's more of like a beat 'em up kind of old school Streets of
Yeah.
Rage but style, which is really really fun.
Did you get the
Uh,
remastered versions of it?
of
Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2?
Oh, no, because I beat those like the same weekend that they came out. So like there, as soon as they launched, me and my buddies we pretty much took the weekend off and just crushed right through it. And everybody, it's funny because everybody had their own character, and I'm sure you're the same way. Like if
Yeah.
you ever have a crew that you play with and there's only certain characters, I was always Spider-Man. My buddy was always Wolverine. Another friend was always Hulk. And then there was the one wild card guy who would just pick the most obscure dude. It's like I'm Ghost Rider. It's like you just messed it all up. They would always mess it up. Did you ever have like a character that you identified with or that you were always attached to?
Growing up, it was always Wolverine, but I think that's every kid who grew up in the 90s.
Yeah, that was Spider-Man, right?
Yeah, that or Spider-Man. That was mostly it. I never really I never got super attached to a character from Marvel. Uh, and then as I kind of got older and I started going back and reading some stories, um, none of the Marvel characters outside of Captain America ever stood out to me. So that was the one kind of as I got older into my teens and my 20s that I was like, yeah, Captain America, my boy.
Which is no, but that's true. Like they're more. You don't necessarily identify with Captain America and what he stands for and his virtues and all that until you get to a point where like, he's actually a nice guy. As long as you don't grow up a complete like douchebag delinquent, you can
Kind of a
actually
nice dude.
identify with his
Yeah.
his virtuous parts of who he is as a character.
Right.
But I remember because I grew up as a complete Spider-Man fanatic, and I am within like right now I'm within like 30 feet of about 800 Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man comic books, and I was just completely enthralled. And then in my mid to late 20s, I started expanding and reading a lot more of Captain America specifically, and I was like, shit. I'm like, do I love Captain America? Like, I can't
Yes.
fucking do this to Spidey. Like, this is not how this happens. Like, I felt like I was cheating on him. Where you're kind of like, this is a damn cool character.
Yeah, definitely. If you go back to the catalog and read some of their stories, it's pretty good. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this game, and I want to know more about it before I get like super hyped, because I'll be honest, like the footage that they showed of it looks kind of sketch. Like it looks like you got to go one way or the other. You got to go fully into the comic book style and create them as comic book characters, or go MCU. Right. And they kind of tried to go halfway. Like in some of the footage and the screenshots, you see like Captain America is like halfway between like a Call of Duty character and like the MCU version. And it's like why is he wearing like a bulletproof vest? Like it's just odd.
I mean, it makes sense to a degree. Like, why wouldn't
sure.
they wear bullets?
It's not like his shield, deflects bullets.
No, but you could maybe be a little bit more nonchalant when you're sort of, walking around, or maybe fucking, I don't know, use the shield to hide, like shield your junk instead of your chest at that point. I don't know. It just seems like he could just be a little bit more effective if he, or just, tape the shield to your chest and then, I don't know. Listen, I'm not a superhero.
Just walk around.
Yeah, just chill out. Who knows? But I don't know. Like, I feel like half the superheroes would be better suited if they all just wore body armor while they did their own thing. It's not like it's holding them down. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. Fuck do I
know? And then the last one here I have, which isn't related to video games in terms of actual video games being released, but something near and dear to me, the Mortal Kombat movie that's getting rebooted. They announced it's going to be R-rated, and that they're going to have fatalities.
Yes.
In the film.
So damn cool, first of all. Because the original movies...
I fucking hate that it's an R-rated movie.
You don't like the original movies?
I love the original. Well, no. We don't talk about Annihilation. Annihilation doesn't exist.
There you know. But, I mean... The original one with those were $400 sunglasses, asshole. And
yes.
Johnny Cage versus Goro.
This is the part where you fall down.
Yeah, he
Yes.
does the splits and punches him in the dick. And
Brilliant.
right, like that's Oscar caliber writing right there.
Love it.
Let's just be honest. And Sonya Blade and all these other
I mean,
like
it has really, obviously it's terrible in certain parts of it, but it was great for when it was, and it's become like more and more classic.
right.
But I don't. My concern isn't that like they're adding fatalities into the movie, and it's gonna be R-rated for, obviously, if you play the game or you see any of the gameplay. Like, it's a very violent game. I get that, but I
Yeah.
feel like it's gonna go for like just shock value and
Uh
gore porn style shit. Like,
it's gonna be like Hobo with a shotgun, but in
right,
Street
like
Fighter style. Yeah.
if you ever did you ever watch Saw?
Yes.
So there's like a puddle of blood in that movie. That's it.
In the original one.
In the first one.
Yeah, exactly. Because it was a psychological thriller. It was
Right.
more that. Yeah.
And it was great. And then like they just went off the wall with it to put as many buckets of blood onto the screen as possible. I'm afraid that's what's gonna happen. Is
Okay.
they're gonna kind of ditch like what made it's campy and cheesy in a really good way. And I feel like they're just gonna go fuck it.
Well, didn't like Deadpool was rated R, wasn't it?
It was. Deadpool was rated
And
R, and it did really well.
yeah, I just don't think that Mortal Kombat's gonna be taking the same kind of comedic approach to it as
No, of course not.
Right now, a cool fun fact: I think didn't the actress who played Sonya also play Miss Vaughn in Billy Madison?
I think so. I'm not 100% sure on that though.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think
All
that's
right,
actually
Chad is saying yes.
okay. So we've been yes, we've been fact checked. So that's perfect. My memory, like I will never remember algebra or directions to anybody important's house, but I will remember that Sonya Blade wants to touch the high knee and all that stuff. So
It's a good one.
now, which one is your favorite? Like, who's your Mortal Kombat main, and what's your favorite fatality?
Sub-Zero.
Okay, all right, fine, I guess.
That one's obvious, but my favorite fatality in all of Mortal Kombat, or just the recent one?
We'll keep it to like 1 and 2.
Oh, the originals. The originals.
Yeah.
Toasty, probably. Scorpion's Toasty, where he just breathes fire on him and turns him into a skeleton.
So
I think that one's more classic than the head rip.
Oh, that one's great. Where he like takes his mask off, right?
Yeah, that one.
The only one I knew how to do is Kano, where you can pull the guy's heart out. So
yes,
that by default was my favorite one, and like he like tastes it or eats it, or I don't know what he does, but
he holds it up in the air.
Yeah, he's like, ah.
But
sweet.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing that, and hopefully it's good. But yeah.
Oh no, I was gonna say, I think it should be good. It's always good when they give them like an R rating to a movie about like demonic violence. So
bloody violence, yeah. So we'll have to see what happens. But moving on, in terms of video games, like, what have you been playing recently?
Mostly, I mean, I'm one of those people who are very attached to the games that I play, and I kind of run them into the ground for a while. I don't sort of, stick and roll off of games too quickly. Besides card games like Magic Gwent and things like that, I'm very much playing a lot of Overwatch lately, and not just because it's a first-person shooter. It's fun to play when you get your buddies together and you have a team game that you can succeed at. Plus, it's also a good stress reliever when you can just kind of rage on people, not in a vicious and disgustingly horrid way.
You run around teabagging, right?
Yes, kind of. Sometimes you don't have time to teabag, but there are other times when it's just the best thing ever when someone's talking shit to you and you just sort of drag a bag over their forehead and you're all good. So it's been mostly that and card games have been the biggest part of my gaming experience lately, purely because I've been sort of trying to push myself to Mythic in Magic. I've made it to Pro Rank in Gwent multiple times. I'm trying to do the same in Magic, and then I'm a awful no aim scrub in Overwatch. So
that's all right though. I've been playing a whole hell of a lot of a game called Satisfactory. This is a game that's on early access right now on the Epic Game Store, and it is pretty much all about factory automation. So you are it. It's awful in a sense that you're like a pioneer sent down to a brand new alien planet, and your whole job is to rip all the natural resources out of it and build factories.
Jesus Christ.
uh, it's conveyor belt the game, and they just released a new update where they added nuclear reactors and trains. So now it's like, okay, it's basically a bunch of new resources, a bunch of new ways to transport stuff around. I gotta jump back in, like, okay, let me rip down all my factories and rebuild them to be more efficient.
And like, is there like a DLC where you can actually sort of visit the animals as they cry, where you're like tearing their
Oh,
entire environment down?
you murder the animals as you run around too.
Oh my lord.
There is one thing, I think it's called I don't know if they call it like a space puppy or something like that. I forget the name of it, but there's one specific animal that you actually can't kill. And you have to like run after it with the berries that you find and try and feed it. And eventually like you tame it and it becomes like your dog for your factory. I still have yet to be able to do it, but
and that animal was man.
yeah, so that's a game that I've been playing a lot of. That and another one called Oxygen Not Included, which
I've seen you play that. That was kind of cool.
That one also released a new update where it's not actually out yet, but if you're on the beta branch of the game, you get access to all their launch features that they're adding, including brand new biomes, new asteroids, and everything. So it's a lot more challenges, because the problem with these types of games is once you play them over and over and you kind of restart, repeat, you get kind of used to how it goes, and nothing's ever like challenging or different.
Okay.
So by adding in all the new biomes and the new asteroids and stuff, it's changed quite a bit. So I like survival games. That's like my jam.
Oh, like you're talking about not like battle royales, but more so.
No, more like original Daisy, and like I guess the basis of all of them is Minecraft, right?
Right.
So I love those types of games, and some go into like the strategy portions where you have colony management too at the same time, and one of my favorite ones is 7 Days to Die, but that hasn't released an update in ages. I like zombies. 7 Days to Die.
I like killing them, and
that you can definitely kill a lot of them there.
What's funny is that Mark is saying that the irony of a game like that is that with the factory workers is people sometimes just work 12 hours in a factory to come home to unwind by playing a game where they work in a factory.
It's true.
It's like The Sims, right? It's like you're complaining about your life, and then you go sit down and then lead the exact same life.
Exactly, and get to undo all the mistakes that you made in your life.
And
exactly. In their life. But another game that got a massive update is Magic Arena.
I've heard of this.
New set came out, M20, and what do you think of the current meta right now? It's only we're in the first week of it, so not much is like out there. But
I guess this is kind of like the honeymoon stage where a lot of things have a lot of the weirdness of it and the unpredictability of it is now gone, but it still hasn't shaken down to the point where you're sort of honed down or bottlenecked to the same sort of 2 or 3 decks that are dominating.
Right.
I've maybe run into one Nexus deck. I'm currently sitting at Diamond tier 2, so I'm not in Mythic yet, but there's no Nexus presence anywhere around there. And really, to be honest with you, the most like the thing that I see the most essentially are cards like Nissa. I mean, that's my biggest threat usually, and that's the biggest
she's pretty
that's
good.
The biggest. Well, she's just she's pretty damn good. But I mean, there's no established meta where you're seeing the same thing over and over and over and over again. So I think it's in a honeymoon stage. Obviously, I think that's going to change. People are going to eventually figure out what the top 2 or 3 tier 1 decks are and roll with that. But I mean, there's occasional Grixis. There's all kinds of colors of the rainbow. But one thing that you'll always see is a damn Llanowar Elf on turn 1.
That's true, yeah. I think green is starting to take forefront without the Explore package, which I'm happy about that.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Explore package is definitely not needed in Magic anymore. But I think I think you're right. You're in a honeymoon phase where people want to try new things. They've been playing with, Esper and Nexus for,
Oh
months
god.
now.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you're seeing so many elemental decks around. I don't think the meta can actually sustain that many of them. I think it will come down to like maybe two, like
Hmm.
green based, like elemental style decks. Um, and you're starting to see like weird variations where the elemental package itself is all of what, 12 cards, right?
Well, yeah, like Omnath, Risen. Okay, so Risen Reef right now is an absolute force of nature. This thing is
Who knew
incredible.
Coiling Oracle would be so good?
Oh man, like that damn thing is just insane. The Risen Reef, when unanswered, I'm currently playing a deck that runs Risen Reef into Scampering Scorcher, or
Yes,
yeah. So you're getting, if that thing survives on turn 4, you're getting three triggers, which is potential either three cards or three options of ramp,
right.
which then plays into I play Nissa or Hydroid or whatnot, and Risen Reef is just bananas. But like you're saying, the elemental package really, what are the cards that you're playing with it? I guess it's Leafkin. You're playing like the Leafkin Druid. You're playing Risen Reef. You're probably playing maybe some are playing Omnath.
Yeah, I think
Um,
that's the three.
yeah, those would be it, which accounts for really the 12 cards, because people were maybe messing around like with the Cloudskin Seer or whatever it's called. Um,
Uh,
the 2/1 flyer blue for 3
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
draws a
Yeah,
card,
I don't.
but it's not worth it, right? And
Right.
or even Trailblazer if you want to play a little bit more aggressive. But a lot of these cards are just sort of, you know, being left by the wayside because the I think the meta sort of shifted away from aggro to a more mid-range two control.
Yeah.
The only thing that's really aggressive right now that's actually getting a lot uh, of respect is like Feather has sort of jumped out of nowhere with the help of God's Willing to
God's
just be
willing. Yeah.
a
God's willing
crazy,
makes that
crazy
deck.
deck.
Yeah, it's unfortunately like I don't know, you never played during like the heroic style decks, right?
No.
During Theros. So when God's Willing was originally released, like there was a style deck called Heroic where it does what the two drop from the Feather deck does, the Legionnaire, where it's like it gets +1/+1 counters. So there was a mechanic called Heroic where every time you targeted this creature, and there were a number of them with Heroic, got +1/+1 counters. And God's Willing made those decks.
Oh
So
God.
that's why you're starting to see a lot of Feather now, is because, oh, I can just protect my guy, and Feather just brings it right back.
Right. It's
So,
just this like everlasting
yeah.
cycle of once you get that mojo going, you're screwed. So how do you beat it? I guess you go wider than it can go, and hopefully you sort of go over the top on it. But I
Yeah,
mean,
you
it ran
can.
me over. I had 17 life, and it had Feather and the Arcanist, and no, sorry, I had Feather. I was going against Feather, the 2-drop, whatever the 2-drop is for Boros now that plays in Feather, and Aurelia, and I had 17 life, and I blocked the ground creature, and they had 3 open mana, and they managed to go over the top on me and crush me for that just by replaying all the spells, and it was gross. It was actually gross.
Yeah, there's one of two ways. There's really two ways to beat those style decks. Either like you got to go super under them because there's not a whole lot of life gain in those style decks.
Mm-hmm.
They are an aggressive deck. Luckily you don't have the heroic gain for life guy from Theros, but so you go under them. So Mono Red should have some pretty good game against them. Mono Red has a lot of reach or counter spells because
Yeah.
they can't actually stop you from countering anything. And for whatever reason in the current meta, counterspells have taken like a massive backseat, and I'm not quite sure why. Veto is like the only counterspell I see now.
Well, I get you're right in that regard. I think it's just a lot of them. What's being counterspelled, like, my gosh, like it is kind of confusing. But I think that there's no major spells now that people are worried about. like a lot, like I'm seeing a lot more creature counter spells, things like essence scatters, and
Yeah.
like, even packing more versatile ones like sinister sabotage, just to make sure that you have all your bases covered. I pack 4 negates more or less in every sideboard I play, purely to just disrupt. If anything, if I'm suspecting a turn 3 to fairy, then you kind of want to get that out of the way. Otherwise, all your negates and all that stuff are gone. But I think maybe a lot of it might be the fact that those counter spells are just garbage now, because of the fact that Teferi's so prominent and it makes them useless. That you can't counterspell things anymore.
Right, but even the Teferi dice aren't playing counter spells. And I was playing an Esper deck that like jammed 4 absorbs into it because uh there are certain creatures that you want to handle. You don't even want them to hit the board. And I was giving that a shot, going back to like an old classic Esper style control deck where you're playing board clears, you're playing counter spells, and you win the game with one giant creature if at all possible.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fine. Like I hit Mythic the other night, and I played a mixture of Esper and my Elementals deck, which is 4 elemental package, but has a bunch of mana sinks in terms of Chandra, Big Chandra, Nissa, Mass Manipulation, and Entrancing Melody.
Yeah.
So, and I've had way more fun playing that deck than I think anything else. And partly is because Risen Reef is a little ridiculous.
Yeah, it's nuts. Well, it allows you to get access to those Nissas or those Chandras like so much quicker, right? And it just either to draw them or to throw them onto the board and have the actual mana with them. Do you play Omnath in that build? I'm imagining
4, yeah.
Yeah,
So
for
it's
sure.
it's 4 Risen Reef, 4 Omnath, and I play Green Cavalier too. Green Cavalier I think is not getting as much play as it should.
It's damn good though.
It has a huge ass. Like it is a 5/6 with reach.
With reach, which is great because it's gonna take one hell of a Hydrate Crisis to sort of bust through that. It's a great protector against your anything in like the Skarkin in the air as well, which sort of has appears every now and then. Same thing with Phoenixes, right? Like it'll just sit there and take it. And when it dies, you can just sort of fix your hand for the next, or fix your draw for the next go, right? Which is great.
Yeah, just like let me grab that Hydrate Crisis that got dumped, and I'll just make another 6/6. Or it's got a lot of play towards the end. I don't know if 4 is the correct number, but I'll try and tune that up. But we've had M20 for a little bit now, and we're getting to see what it's being played. But coming up in a little under 3 months, roughly, rotation.
Yeah.
What are we looking forward to with rotation, and what are we gonna miss?
That's a great question. I initially was just completely ready to sort of wave goodbye to Big Teferi until Little Teferi came by, and then I was like, well, there's no point. I think that one of the major things that I cannot wait to see go would be Nexus, although I'm a little less salty about it because it's not as big of a deal these days. There's a lot that's going to be biting the dust from Mono Red's package. I think that although they are getting some help, but I mean, what am I going to miss that's leaving? Damn, like there's like Landwehr Elf is gone, right?
Yes.
I don't think they're getting anything in that 1-drop spot, unless like what's that that 03 monkey that drops land, like that might be
the Arboreal Gaffer or whatever its name is.
Like, is that an alternative? I don't think it is.
No. We might get one in Archery. We don't know what's in Archery, which is the set coming out in October.
But I don't know what else necessarily I'm missing. I'm going to miss the Dinosaur package because that's always fun to play. Like, like Ixalan and Rivals going is going to hurt some of the variety. I guess Carnage Tyrant, which is not being played all that much right now. Because I guess Esper board wipes are kind of all over the place, but that's probably one of the options for me is the fact that I'm going to be missing my Carnage Tyrant, which was a card that one of the first mythics that I kind of spent my wild cards on was that one.
It was a good one to have, that's for sure. Carnage Tyrant was everywhere. I am looking forward to the most out of everything. Looking forward to the Explore package just going away.
Oh, so you're like painting with a broad stroke. You're like,
Yes.
fuck this guy and this guy and that
I
guy.
I love Explorer as a mechanic. I think it's great to mana fix or somehow manipulate the top of your deck in colors that don't get access to that. But having the Three Musketeers for the past X amount of months has just been it's kept so many decks at bay. Like I'm honestly surprised that it's still not being played because the Elemental package gets shut down pretty hard by it. Like if they just go turn 2 Wild Goose Walker into turn 3 Jade Light, like can't really do anything.
No.
And you're not blocking and you're not killing anything, so eventually the Explore package just kind of outraces you. But
yeah, that's where you're kind of hoping to just chump block your way into like a Hydroid that can go over top. But you're right about that. It's that deck forced a lot of more aggressive decks to either waste burn early on creatures, like your lightning strikes that would otherwise go to face. You're using them to kill these things. Plus, if they're drawing them on curve properly, like they're difficult to deal with. People were starting to sort of pack Lava Coil's main deck just to deal with those kinds of garbage because they're tough to get rid of, and especially with now Command the Dreadhorde, allowing these decks to really, dig deep and just gain all that life back. But I guess I kind of echo your sentiment there that it's going to be nice to see those cards go, like Jade Light and Merfolk Branchwalker and Wildgrowth Walker. Like you said, the Three Musketeers that kind of kept green in the game for so long and established the nuttiest boards by turn 4 or 5. I deal with I've played those decks. They're fun to play, and I can understand people's frustration when they pop off.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where it is I guess it's the Jund problem that Jund has always had, which is I have the removal, I have the green power, and I have the ramp. So when it gets to a point where all those things are all good together, I have the early gain, I have life gain, incidental life gain, which Jund originally had. I forget the name of the card, but you could like pay green, exile a card from your graveyard. If it was a creature, gain 2 life, like Scavenging Ooze. That's what it was. So now you're seeing that same problem with like the Dreadhorde decks, where it's like I have the early game, and if it goes late, I command the Dreadhorde, I get it all back.
Yeah.
And if I did my math right, none of it matters.
Yeah. Well, that's it. You throw it down to 1 health, and then all of a sudden you get all the triggers off of the Wildgrowth Walkers, all the exploring, and then suddenly that you might have taken 19 damage, but you're back up magically to like 38 health. So plus you have the fattest board ever.
Happy to see that go away, and I'm pretty sure, although I'd have to look at the deck list just to make sure, I'm pretty sure Mono Blue dies at rotation.
Storm Tamer gone. You're gonna miss the Storm Tamer. You're gonna miss the Genie. The Genie's gonna be gone as well.
Right.
Merfolk
Sinister.
Trickster's dead.
No, Sinister we still have. Merfolk Trickster's gone.
Dive
Down? Does Dive Down go?
Dive Down is gone as well. You're gonna
Obsession?
miss Dive Down. You're gonna miss Spell Pierce.
Okay, I will go buy fireworks, and I will launch every firework in the fucking tri-state area in my street for the death of that stupid deck. If you play it, kudos. It's great for you. I can't stand it.
Oh, what's that fungus? That one cost instant
fungal infection.
Like playing again at my local game store, there was a lot of mono blue, and I played a lot of Golgari pre war, and my sideboard was just there was a lot of mono red and there's a lot of mono blue. So my sideboard packed like 4 fungal infections in my Golgari list, and I took out all my cast downs and just put those in because I'm like, everything you put on the board is either going to die instantly or is going to die on an unfavorable trade to my fungal infections. And I ended up winning tournaments just off of that tech, which was just disgusting because as soon as they saw me play black, they're like, okay, well, there's no shock that's going to kill my bird. And I'm like,
right,
bitch, you got disease now. And they got trees and fungus and shit. So that's kind of that one.
I'll be really happy when that kind of rotates out. Although I don't know if the blue-green flash deck will stick around afterwards. I think it will.
I like that deck.
Really?
Well, I'm not saying that it's necessarily like a tier 1 or
no. It's I don't give a shit. Tiers, fucking
Yeah,
tiers don't really matter.
it's
But
tier one in my heart. Like it's tier one fun deck. It's a tier fun deck.
a tier
But
fun deck. There you go.
I was watching Adamant play it the other day, and I was like, this looks like a lot of fun. It's a little tricky to play at times in terms of decision making. And it's one of those decks where you're always playing mostly on your opponent's turn, so you have to pick and choose your spots. But it punishes mistakes pretty badly. But it's a lot of fun if it catches people off guard,
Yeah,
because you're always going to get favorable trades with your blocks. You're always going to counter stuff. You always have like at least the board to yourself for most of it. I thought that was a really really cool deck to see.
yeah. We'll have to see what kind of shakes up, and then of course this weekend we have I think our first tournaments are this weekend, right? Or is it next weekend? I'll have to pull up like a
It might be next weekend. This weekend, I know Alias has her tournament tomorrow.
Alias's tournament is tomorrow. Yes, you in that?
I am in that, and I will
Okay.
be casting the finals with Alias on Sunday morning, I believe. We'll be
Okay.
doing that.
Yeah, this weekend is Star City Games Worcester, so there will be
Oh, okay.
a standard tournament this weekend, at least the Star City one. I don't know about any Channel Fireball events or anything like that.
Question is, what would you bring? It's like, what do you feel most comfortable with playing right now?
Me personally, Tamir Elementals. But I would play the one I have, the Mr. Steal Your Girl. As many mass manips as possible. Because I think a lot of people are going to be bringing creature based decks, and I think it has the pressure against Esper if Esper's built wrong. Although we do know that I think Esper Hero won a tournament about midweek. I think it was it Fandom? Might have been Fandom.
Right.
That Esper Hero won, but
nothing a bunch of shocks and lightning strikes and stuff like that can't handle.
Yeah, I'm definitely predicting a rug heavy top 8 for sure.
I will say this: there's certain amounts of underestimation of the entrancing melody for 0 on a Nissa land. It's like my favorite play now.
I told you about that the other day.
I know you did, and I started doing it, and I was like, so that's minus a land for him, plus a land for me, and a 3/3 vigilant, like badass force. Like,
yes,
all for 2 mana. I'm like, this is some solid return.
Yeah.
And I started doing it more and more rather than waiting for something big. I'm like, well, maybe he'll put out a Hydroid and I'll steal that. I'm like, fuck that. I'm gonna take his land. I'm gonna drink his milkshake. Like, it's totally happening.
Mine now.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then I totally credit you for telling me about this and just being like, just do it. It comes in for 0. Like, it costs 2, and you're gonna feel like a big man. Like,
but especially on boards where like it's just a bunch of ramp creatures or shit you don't really care about. Like number 1 target for me is always Risen Reef if it's there.
Oh yeah.
Or like a Massive Crassus or something. And if you're playing against somebody who plays Cavalier, if you do take their Cavalier, you get the trigger. So.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah, if it does die on your side of the field, you'll get the trigger.
But it goes into their graveyard.
Well, it goes into exile. So.
Okay, right. But you get to pick what you want out of your graveyard to put on top of your deck.
Yes.
Hey man, the more you know. Like, this is a science show as well that people don't understand.
The more you know, tips and tricks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's partly why I really enjoyed the Rug Elementals deck. There's a lot of play to it, and there's a lot of the decision trees aren't as obvious, I think, as some of the other more mid-range decks, and especially some of the more aggressive like Elementals versions. Especially if you're playing with the Lord. Living Twister and like the Mini Chandra, like all that leans towards the aggressive of just I'm going to attack you, and to be honest, I'm not even quite sure why like Risen Reef is in those decks, because it doesn't necessarily help you. It's just a 1/1 for 3. Like there's probably something better to be playing. So you might start seeing like either just pure red green elemental style decks that are only playing like, you know, Scorcher and Chandra and the Lord.
And like those Trailblazers, and like just to get basically to throw down a crap ton of you know, smash on the ground, right? So
But then the question is like, are you better than mono red at that point?
Well, that's the thing. Like, or just standard Gruul at that point. Like, why
Right.
don't you
Yeah.
just play, like a normal Gruul package, which is kind of disgusting sometimes. Like I'm seeing a lot more Gruul that plays with a lot more sort of instant power, and just focusing on just beefing up like a couple creatures versus going wider with a lot of them. Um, they're just difficult. These spell breakers are just nasty. Like those are probably the most powerful tool that they have are those spell breakers.
Spellbreaker is a hard thing to deal with because you can't deal with it once it's in play on their side, so you gotta wait till your turn. And unless you're playing lava coils, you're probably not touching it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of unfortunate. But when I've gone against Gruul, it's been kind of okay because I play Cavalier.
Oh well, yeah,
And
you're fine there because that thing just
Cavalier's just
blocks everything
like,
they throw at you.
yeah, it's like I got a
Yeah.
huge ass and you're not really getting through. Um,
Thought
and
his
that kind
Tinder
of just
profile.
yeah, Tinder profile for Cavalier, huge ass. Um, so I've not experienced any real trouble against them. Um, and then of course we're kind of leaving out a fan favorite, vampires.
Okay, so this came out of nowhere. Like I love vampires. It's one of the first archetypes I built after dinosaurs. When I got into Magic at Dominaria time, I sort of went backwards to Ixalan block and really fell in love with the vampires and the dinosaurs. So it's like, all right, well, I'll do white black vampires and then red green dinos and then blue can go fuck itself. I don't care about that color. And but all of a sudden, just queuing in diamond tier, and yesterday there was, I think, 3 out of my first 6 matchups were against these very aggressive vampire builds that uh, they throw the Ebon Legion down on turn 1. They go with like the Legion Lieutenant on turn 2. They soar in turn 3 and bust out that 4/4 that draws.
The
I forgot his
champion,
name. The
champion of dusk,
champion,
yeah.
yeah, champion of dusk. Gives them a crap ton. That gives them a 3-card draw, and then it's off to the races with them. And then it's just really difficult to deal with it, especially with Adantos also being a problem of just blocking and attacking for free more or less, and because they'll always get they're always gonna get that life back. It's a disgusting um like out of nowhere. And I pack in my deck currently in my elementals deck is I pack 4 shock and 3 lightning strikes early in main deck purely to deal with a lot of early game threats, Landwehr elves, um, leafkins, and mono white garbage and stuff that might come out there. Once I establish a board, I usually am fine, but I need a
Yeah.
lot of early game removal. Problem is that I like no matter what I do, I can never keep up because they just go wide and crazy and disgusting. And Soren is just a jackass. But like, where did this come from, Frosty? Like, where did this suddenly hit the meta as being something that everyone seems to be playing, or was it just yesterday? I don't know.
No, I noticed it day one, because I probably like most people completely misread what Soren did. I thought his the -3 or whatever, returned a vampire from their graveyard to their hand.
No,
That's
dude.
that's what I thought he did. And then my opponent went like Soren on 3 minus put Vona in play, and I was like, oh fuck, like
Yeah.
that is wrong and uncalled for. And
it's like, let's just cheat out like this massive. In my head, I was like, oh, that's a great way to throw like a Twilight Prophet on the board and be cool. But no, some people are
no,
like,
fuck that.
why stop there? Yeah.
And then apparently it possibly might have some implications in older formats, because it is technically like a Through the Breach style card. Through the Breach allows you to put a creature from your hand into play with haste.
Okay.
And there's possibly some talks of like you have to jump through so many different hoops in order to get this to work, but like there is a possibility of you like turn oneing certain cards that you should not be able to. But in any case, I think a combination of Soren being printed, Legion of the Ebon Hand or whatever, Is that the card's name?
The Ebon Legion, the one drop, the 1/2
Yeah, that one.
vampire one drop. Yeah.
So that being printed is not just for vampires, but just for black based aggro decks in general. It's a really good card. Um,
Yeah.
it helps that it pairs well when you go turn one Legion into turn two Adanto, pay the 4 life, because it does not matter who lost life as long as some player lost 4 life. So you can
Oh,
immediately
really?
you can immediately put a counter on it, and then it becomes impossible to block from turn 3 forward, because at any point it's just +3/+3 and death touch.
Uh-huh.
So I think it's just a combination of like people finding the exact cards that need to go where, and screwing the like let's put Vona in play tricks and Twilight Prophets and stuff. It's like no, we're gonna
Yeah.
be aggressive. It's gonna be turns 1 through 4, and that's it.
I don't even think Vona's all that great. I mean, she's good and all, but I feel like I still think that the Sorin combo, like people playing Champion of Dusk with Sorin now, and that's usually what I see happen. That's usually like the go-to. So in the 3 best of 3s I played against that deck yesterday, anytime like Sorin hit the board about 4 times, and every single time he was triggered, it was always for Champion of Dusk, and I mean, Vona's cool and all. Like that's definitely a solid option. I just sometimes I guess people might be a little bit more worried about using Vona's ability of paying 7 life to destroy something that early on in a game, never knowing if there's not enough life gain on the board for the vampire deck already to sort of get it going. But
Right,
I
and
mean,
I think Vona is mostly sideboard now for dealing with Nexus. Um,
yeah,
that's pretty much it. But you know, they even have the 4 mana Sorin to gain all the life back too.
God,
So, and that just returns everything as well. So
yeah,
it is a solid aggressive deck. Um, that
it's
can
cool though. It's freaking cool.
it is nice to see a different aggro deck. And just to kind of keep you on your toes of like you still need board clears. You know, this isn't a meta or a format where you can kind
Mhm.
of toss all your board clears out the door because mono red, like they play a couple of creatures but not many. Elementals, they get a little bit bigger than most of your board clears can hit.
Yeah.
And then, but here's vampires hanging around going like, hope you don't have Deafening Clarion because otherwise I'm fucked.
Yeah,
Like,
like it's a ritual of soot nightmare for those
right.
guys, right? Um,
That's why I play Flame Sweep in my Elementals deck. Uh,
I had it in my sideboard and I ended up taking it out because, well, mind you, I also play. So I play Scampering Scorcher in mine. So I like to go really wide with my
mhm,
elemental deck, and so a lot of the times for me, it's just a matter of I'll just rock shock and lightning to keep the board okay, and then I go wider and just chump block my crappy dudes
right.
until I get something that I like. But I see Flame Strike being like I had it in there to begin with, but then I ended up just nuking my own board anyways and killing my own Risen Reefs and everything, which became you know a little bit painful to watch. But you're right. I mean,
Yeah,
you're gonna need it, and it got me thinking, especially when I queued into my third stupid vampire matchup. I was like, I need to play some sideboard. Like I have to like or some board sweep here.
you're
But
not
it's
going to be
hard.
more aggressive than them in any
Yeah,
way.
but it's
And
hard as red, to without nuking your own board. You could play like fiery cannonade or flame sweep or whatever, but you're still crushing your own dudes.
you are, and that's why, like, I think that's where the separation has to be for which elemental deck you're going to be. Are you
Hmm.
going to be super aggressive? Because if you are, then you should be finding ways to go under vampires and playing something like Tybalt instead of
Hmm.
Flame Sweep. So you're like, I don't necessarily care how many dudes you have. I just don't want you to gain any life,
Yeah,
and I'll finish you off with like Living Twister or something. Or you can go bigger and play Flame Sweep because it's going to kill my Elf and my Risen Reef, nothing else. And like, I'm okay with that. Like if I'm doing a 2-for-1 or more with a Flame Sweep, I'm happy, no matter what dies on my side. Unless I'm like, if I have 3 mana and playing 3 elves, I'm not going to do it because that's just stupid.
no.
But like, you know, I
But a
definitely
lot of the
think
times, like your recovery was usually probably better in terms of draw and actually board presence other than that vampire deck because
yes,
your plays are gonna sort of ramp up to be bigger creatures and better defense against it versus them who might actually just keep tossing in little smaller vampires, smaller weenies, which you'll have a better chance of dealing with once you sort of clear the board on turn 3 or 4, right?
Yeah, and any elemental player who's struggling with aggressive decks, take a look at Living Twister. It is a 2/5. It's a huge ass. Like like 2/5 for 3. Like that is hard to get through for a lot of aggressive decks, especially mono red.
Uh, You're making me want to sideboard this thing now, or at
I'm
least
just
main
saying.
board apart.
I'm just saying because that's one of the things with Soren too is he comes down +1. I'm gonna sacrifice a vampire token. I don't care that I got off
Yeah.
of Legion Loyalist or whatever, or whatever the one white enchantment is.
Legion's Landing.
That thing, yeah. Sacrifice that token. I'm gonna shoot something for 3. I'm gonna get through with my other guys. They can't do that for a 2/5, you know. And maybe you
You're
died
making
in
me
like an
think.
explore package or something. You know, but that's the thing is, I think that's where the separation has to happen of what elemental deck you're gonna be.
Yeah. I mean,
And I
to
think
me,
we'll
that
see
deck,
that this weekend.
like a deck that would run the Living Twister, seems more like a long game control, or like a more control mid range to control, like on that spectrum versus something aggressive. Because even with the Living Twister, I mean, you could sack lands and deal damage, but
Like
is
the
that
thing is,
more?
like you're playing Nissa, right? All the
Yeah,
aggressive decks play Nissa because she is an aggressive card. And then you can get to a point where you have Living Twister, float all my mana, bounce all my lands, and throw them at your face.
yeah,
Um,
that's a good idea.
so it is the reach which allows the Elementals decks to not play burn spells. Like I have Living Twister, I don't need a Lightning Strike. I'm just gonna throw lands at you.
Right.
So I think that's the trade off there.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah, I see the wheels are turning. You're just
You
like,
can
oh
see, you can
shit.
tell, right? It just sucks that I literally sent in my deck submission for the tournament about 2 hours ago.
Oh,
Yeah, I know.
right.
And the worst part is that I'm like, I don't even have time to practice it if I were to sort of change it up. So I'm just gonna keep, like, I've been rolling with it. I'll be okay. Not to mention that I've already been told that if I make it to the top 8, I have to not I'm not allowed to be in the top 8. Not that I'm going to be in the top 8. I don't think I am. It's a tournament of
You,
like 400 people, but
you're
if
not
I get to the
allowed.
top 8, well, because I have to cast the
Oh, you're
top 8.
casting it. That's right.
Yeah, so if that all said and done, they're going to be like, well, you can't play end cast, and if you do, it'd be kind of hilarious. I don't think that's possible. I'm like, I'll do it, but it doesn't seem legal, so should
Yeah,
be fun though.
that's cool. Well, good luck in that.
You're
Now
not playing in
for
it?
no, I'm not. My tournament days are done.
Oh,
I
you're
just
tired already.
yeah, I can't. I don't know what it is about me. Like I will support them and I will watch them and I'll give my thoughts on the top eights and everything. But competing now in tournaments is like it's I hate to use the word chore, but because I used to travel like a lot for
Okay.
tournaments and I would travel in the tri-state area, go to as many tournaments as I could, rooming with poor people in a freaking Holiday Inn or some shit, just to get to the tournament site, spending a little as money possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I had that competitive drive, and I'm fucking old, man.
I kind of know what you like. Can I ask you how old you are?
You may. I am 30.
Okay, well, I'm 33, and I totally know what you mean and what you're talking about that. Where I'm in this tournament, and I'm very happy to be. This is the first, like, when I go to my LGS when they have like these standard tournaments and whatever, and I'm like, we're doing 4 rounds of Swiss. I'm like, oh, get out of here! Like, I don't have time for this garbage.
4 is
Yeah, I was like,
nothing.
I know. Well, that's the thing. But I'm used to like 3, like just playing 3, so you could play for like $20 a store credit or whatever, just to sort of test decks out and go crazy. But like, I'm like 4 rounds of Swiss. I'm like, do you know what time it is? It's like 3 p.m. asshole. I gotta get home.
Yeah.
Like, I got.
they're really long days, and afterwards you're just mentally drained. So, I enjoy my weekends now.
No, I feel you. Tomorrow's gonna be
um,
an interesting one because it starts
yes,
at 8 a.m. So
yes. So I'll be checking in as much as I can, but we were pre-show. We were actually talking about digital versus paper.
mm-hmm.
And kind of we were talking about Gwent going through some stuff right now, and that there's a balance patch coming out. You said towards the end of the month.
Yeah, they're aiming, I believe, the end of July.
Okay. And how we got onto this discussion of, you know, I see that as almost a con for digital games of like they can do this, they can change their cards whenever they want, so they choose not to go through any sort of initial testing, where it's like, well, if there's a problem, we'll just fix it later, no big deal.
Yeah.
Like Hearthstone just recently went through it where they're like, oh, here's this new promo card, everybody's gonna get it, they're gonna get a golden legendary, it's great. And somebody posted immediately like, this is an infinite combo on turn 5 for priest. Like, did you even
Okay.
look? Yeah, it's like, did you even look? Like, this is ridiculous. And before the card was released, luckily they changed it, but it's still, that's one of the things I feel like digital games, digital card games specifically, like they have this problem of not wanting to test. Whereas paper, if something gets through, like say Teferi,
Mhm.
or previously Jason the Mind Sculptor, um, these cards get through. They get through all their testing. They get through all their internal leagues, what they call the Future League, which they're playing now. What's going to come out in 9 months? That's
Right.
what they're doing internally. So they get a chance to change it now, but once those cards are printed, that's it. They
Yeah.
can't go back and change them. Um, and that was a big thing with Big Teferi a little while back. They errated his plus to make him better for whatever reason. Because he used to force you to untap 2 lands no matter
Right.
what. So you would have to untap your opponent's lands. I'm like, well, that's a feels bad moment, so we're gonna make it so that you don't have to. Like that
So
makes him
you
better.
may. Yeah.
Like, so that was a weird moment I think in Magic because Magic's never really done that. To go back and just errata a card because it's already printed. Anytime you go buy a printed Teferi, he says you have to.
Yeah. It's
Um,
not you may, it's you must, right?
right.
Or it
It
tells you
just
to do
says
it.
it
Yeah.
tells you to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about that? Like,
Uh so like I've always had this discussion, especially since like Gwent's gone through balance issues in the past. It's not something new with that, and I mean they've had the difficult task recently of actually implementing a brand new faction. So imagine if Magic added a new color, right, like to the fray, where they have to print enough cards to make it viable under multiple archetypes with different viabilities, different interactions, and make it worthwhile.
right,
Like blue has aggro and blue has slow decks and blue has control decks, and they have to do the same kind of with the new faction. The problem there is that, like you said, with paper, you have to be absolutely goddamn sure that what you're putting out in physical form is correct.
right,
So not to mention in paper that you don't have the luxury, or I don't know if luxury is the right word, but you don't have the ability to create random effects that other card games do. Like for instance, in Hearthstone, like imagine a card in Magic that had sort of the knife juggler effect, right, where you deal 1 damage to a random target. Uh, that's difficult because in a board of, let's say you had a board of like 15 tokens on there, like what are you going to roll a dice for every single one to see how every single one of those knives sort of land?
yes, you will.
Well, you'd have to, right? At that
Yeah,
point, you'd absolutely have to, which kind of makes it unfun in that regard. So, Magic is sort of double edged sworded in that regard, where they have to be absolutely 1,000% sure that what they're printing has no broken elements to it, which just makes it harder to print cards and limited in how they can print them. But they've done a good job so far of actually having an impressive sort of array of effects and abilities that don't bust the game wide open to the point where nobody's messing up. Um, like there are bans, obviously, but no
right.
company wants to create a card and then ban it. A ban is just a failure, right? It's them admitting that it's a failure, and it's like, especially when you ban something in standard. Like, what was that red dinosaur that didn't allow you to?
Ferocidon,
Yeah, like
still
that was
banned, still
yeah,
banned in
but
standard.
and that's standard, right? And
Yeah,
I have on my desk. I can't find it now because there's a pile of Magic cards like this high. I have a foil for Ozodon, and I was like, I can't play this, but it looks damn cool. But literally, like when Magic bans a card, it's them saying, "Well, we fucked up. Like we really fucked up, and you guys were smarter than our developers were in figuring this out." And to their to their to their credit, they haven't really created that many mistakes. So good for them, honestly, because there are other card games that I don't know if it's because it's digital and it's an easy fix of just changing some things online or like in the code and fixing it that way, that they can just be a little bit more lenient. But I don't know, man.
I'll give you the benefit of the doubt that you're a recent Magic player, so Magic has fucked up many times.
Okay, so that's true, because we have
Many
to keep in mind
times.
that I entered the game at Dominaria and only played as far back and collected as far back as Kaladesh and Aether Revolt.
So prior to Dominaria, prior to Kaladesh and Aether Revolt and stuff, actually it was during Kaladesh and Aether Revolt, there were 9 cards banned in Standard. The most that there's ever been.
Really? And
yes.
Just in Standard, not
just
like
in Standard. They banned 9 cards because of how like just completely fucked up everything was.
Can you give me an example of like one of these busted interactions?
Aetherworks Marvel, which is a 4-mana artifact. Did you remember Energy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, there is a team dedicated to making sure that this doesn't happen anymore at Wizards. But so Aetherworks Marvel, 4-mana artifact. You may pay, I believe it was 6 energy, tap it, look at the top 9 cards of your library, or was it 7 cards? It might have been 7. I don't remember the exact number. Look at the top X cards of your library. You may cast any non-land card from them
for free.
So think of currently any like crazy card, regardless of mana cost, that you could cast for free, like off an Aetherworks Marvel. Pretty impressive, right?
So essentially, you're just playing your first couple turns of just gathering energy to drop that artifact to then go ahead and...
You remember Attune to Aether? Like 1 green, gain 2 energy?
Yeah.
Like search for a land. There was the Rogue Refiner coming to play, gain 3 energy, draw a card. There was the artifact that gain 3 life and gain 3 energy. Like, you got to 6 energy before you cast Aetherworks Marvel.
Wow.
So it would be Marvin play, tap, flip. Now, at that time, I believe it was Oath of the Gatewatch was the last set before this. And those are... Do you know what Eldrazi are? Or you've seen them?
Like I've heard of it a lot, and I know that it's like an archetype or like a not necessarily a faction, but it's like a tribal, isn't it?
It is a tribe, yeah. I actually have... I'm pretty sure I have the specific card, but it was Ulamog. Before that, it was Emrakul, but Emrakul got banned almost immediately. So Ulamog, which was... I believe to cast Ulamog was 9 mana. The 9 or 11. It was 9. But when you cast Ulamog, you exiled 2 permanents from play. When you cast it, not when it came into play, not when it attacked, when you cast it. So it would be Aetherworks on 4, flip, Ulamog, cast, exile your 2 lands. I now have a 15/15 or whatever it was. I think it was a 10. I think it was 11/11, and you're down 2 lands. So yes, Aetherworks Marvel, like, fuck busted. Like, there have been... So that was during that time. Like, there were 9 cards banned in Standard. Like, so... Like, in comparison, right? Like, a Gwent team or a Hearthstone team can come around and go, okay, Aetherworks Marvel costs, like, 8 now. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
I think that makes them sloppier, right? Because they can just go, oh, well, oops. Like, we'll go back and we'll fix that.
Right.
And one of the other things
There's a safety net, right? Like,
yeah, it's a safety net.
You're definitely less careful and intricate, I think, when there's a safety net. I mean, like anything else, if you're just walking a tightrope and there's a net beneath you, you're more likely to fucking try to do a flip while you're on your way there, right? It's like to the other end than if there's nothing beneath you. So I get what you're saying there, and I think you're right.
I think the other thing too that you see with digital games like Gwent, Eternal, Hearthstone, any of these, is that they will change cards to refresh the meta. Instead of producing additional content, instead of going back and going, okay, let's make some new stuff, let's get a little creative and push out more content, it's let's grab 10 cards that are not played right now that we think should be played. Let's just make them a little bit better. Maybe they'll come back. For instance, in Eternal, there was a card, Ikaria, who originally cost, I think she was 7 mana. Like 7 mana to play, and she was really, really good. Like, she was everywhere. And then they were like, well, she's too good, we're going to make her 8 mana instead. And suddenly she disappeared. Nobody would play her anymore because of the extra mana. Like they didn't change anything
Too
else on the
much.
card, just like
Just
8
made it
mana
one
instead
more
of 7.
cost.
Yeah, and so then they posted, they're like, well, we want to see her play again, so we're gonna change it back to 7. Like,
Well,
like what
like,
the
so
fuck?
was your justification wrong before? Like, what was the deal?
No, they
That's
stood by it. They're just like, yeah, she left for the time, and we want to see her get played again, so bring her back.
weird.
So they just that's to me. And then think of it from like a consumer way of like, good thing these I don't know if Gwent does this. If they change a card, do they allow you to refund the card?
Yeah, typically they do. In certain cases, they'll give you sort of like a 5-day window to get a full
Okay,
like dust value refund.
right. So like it's a good thing they do that, because otherwise, like everybody would riot anytime they change a card.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine that as a consumer, you're like you want to, go and I'm gonna make 4 Omnath because I love how Omnath plays and I want to play him. And next week they announce, oh, we're gonna change Omnath to a 1/1. We'll give you 5 days to refund it, get your wild card back, but he's gonna be a 1/1 from now on. Now you no longer even want to fucking play the card. Like,
Yeah,
it's like that's not what you want. So
and you've almost even killed like a whole deck archetype at the same time. You're like, well, I don't even
sure,
want to play any of these, but you don't get refunds on the cards, the support cards that you created to support that one card too, right?
right.
So
So I just that's from
one
my
of
perspective, that's the problem with digital card games.
yeah, the safety net, like
Yeah,
the plus, like the exactly. Sometimes you're just a little bit too swayed by the community of just saying, well, or like statistics, like you said, that one card that saw way too much play, so they tweaked it in order to sort of maybe hone it down, and then all
yeah,
of a sudden nobody played it, and they're like, oh well, we didn't, maybe we were wrong. It's like, well, do your research, or
yeah.
maybe you were right the first time. One of the card games I used to play, one of the first paper card games I ever played was Star Wars CCG, and they were the biggest. First of all, you can call me the biggest geek ever about this, but whatever. They were the worst offenders of actually printing cards in order to boost um, other cards. But it was paper, so you couldn't exactly go and change existing cards to make them more
Right,
playable. So what they did instead was legitimately they would create cards that were like, play this card to get this card out of your deck plus another card. So it's like, oh, now I have incentive to play it because there's this
right.
other card that I can play that gets this. And like, if you had, and this is going to sound, again, it's going to sound so nerdy, but you'd have Vader and you'd have his lightsaber, and like they were both shuffled in the deck, and like the lightsaber alone was garbage and Vader on his own was okay, but when they're together they're amazing. But then they just print a card where it's like, okay, get them both from your deck and put them in your hand. Or they'd even have something where it's like, oh, you start with both of them in your hand. It's like, what are you, out of your mind? Like, this is insane. So they literally they would print cards that were focused on saying things like, if you're playing this card, then you get all these bonuses. It was bribery. It was actually bribery for them to go ahead and resurrect cards that we're seeing no play, which was kind of disgusting and gross. But the game like got completely, like, if you want to talk about a game that jumped the shark, like once that game they lost their license to have Star Wars merchandise. So what they did was they were like power creep pornography. It was fucking insane. The last 2 sets that they were allowed to
That's a
print.
new one.
Oh well, imagine this. It's like in Hearthstone, power creep was always an issue, and it kind of was very prominent with like the mechanical shredder or whatever it was, that 4/3.
Yes.
But imagine like Hearthstone was like, okay, we're not printing anything else, but we're releasing one more set, and we want you to buy it. So now all that we're printing a 3-drop. We're printing a 6/5 3-drop. Like,
just fuck
yeah,
it.
yeah. But what they did was they're like, okay, we're printing a 6/5 3-drop. The set is going to be 30 cards. All the cards are rare, and like there's one card per pack, kind of thing like that. So
Right.
that's what they
So
did. And the fact is that every single card was so overpowered that anybody who wanted to still play the game competitively had to own these cards.
right.
So the company made this last big jerk off move of making money, and God, I hate them so much.
Yeah, so that you bring up like the major problem with paper is they have to sell packs.
Yeah.
You have to continuously sell packs, because once those are open, Like Wizards makes zero money off of Magic singles that get sold in your shop. When you go and buy, I need 4 Sorens, Wizards gets nothing of that.
Yeah.
They only get off of like the distribution prices and then packs that get sold out of retailers. So their big incentive is to constantly make new stuff, new sets and everything. And an example of where this becomes a massive problem was the WoW TCG. They had playable competitive cards in treasure packs, which were like PvE content.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you ever see like the raid, like the dungeon raid boxes for WoW?
I've never
TCG?
seen those boxes. No. What were these like?
So it was basically you would get it's almost like Arch Enemy, like for Magic, where you get 4 people together, they all have their individual decks, and then you have one person with like a superpowered deck, and they're the raid boss, and the 4 people it's 4v1. So WoW did this, and you're gonna get a healer, you're gonna get a tank, you're gonna get a DPS, and you build your party and then go into a dungeon. And the big thing for it was there were boxes of treasure packs that you could buy separately as like incentive, right? Of I'm your DM, I have the actual raid. People are gonna come over to my place and they're gonna raid. I'm gonna go buy like 6 treasure packs, and if you get all the way through, I'm gonna give 1 to each of you.
Okay.
Like that was their whole goal. The problem with that is the cards that were in those treasure packs were playable in competitive play, and they were printed only in the treasure packs.
Oh God.
So Edwin Van Cleef, probably the best card ever printed in WoW TCG, only available in a treasure pack, like a rare in those treasure packs as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to go and buy one to play, they were $250.
Dear God.
And you needed 4 of them. I know somebody here locally who made his rent off of renting out Edwin Van Cleef's.
Wow.
He owned like 40 of them. And a WoW tournament would come up, and he's like, "You need Edwins? $40 a piece for each day."
Holy Christ!
And you're not going to spend $250, but you'd spend like $120.
Yeah, just to get the ones you need.
Right, just to get the ones you need.
That is a sick layer of like. First of all, that's ingenious.
Oh, he's brilliant.
like I've never known about like rent. I guess you have to be in an area that actually has a tournament scene for that. But dear Lord, like if you want to talk about cornering the market and really playing the market, like I know that some people buy and sell cards on just prospecting what the prices might be.
Yeah, no, it wasn't true. It was not Mike.
But that is just obscene. But good for him, I guess. That's a super smart move.
Yeah, and the other thing too was, and Tim was probably the best player in the world when it came to WoW TCG 2. So he won all the tournaments, and what you would get for winning a tournament would be Edwin Van Cleef's. So he just continuously got them. But that's the big problem with paper is like trying to constantly push this content. No, Henne, no. different Tim.
Okay, so I'm totally looking at this card right now. Maybe I'm doing this wrong.
Edwin Van Cleef?
Yeah.
He was great. He did exactly what he does in the game, which was he comes with 2/1/1s that protect him. Like basically he comes with his own 2/2 blocker.
Yeah, so it's just like it's a 4 cost or something, 4 mana.
Yeah, 4 mana for I think it was a 5/5 or 5. Was he 5/3? Yeah.
Okay, and like this thing was just oh my lord.
But so, but you could go the opposite way in which Konami does it for their paper games, where if any cards get over a certain amount of money, they'll print them outright. They'll put them in a box set and sell it on Target for $10.
Oh really?
Yeah. So they go ultra hard the other way, where they want as many of them out on the market as possible, so that you don't have to pay X amount. But then there becomes like a weird secondary market to that, where like people are like, oh, I have the rare version of Pot of Greed or whatever, not the uncommon one, so mine's worth more money. It's like, fuck, they both do the exact same, whatever.
I'm trying to look on eBay just to see what the prices are for this card. Did the value just tank on these?
Well, the game is no longer in print. Hearthstone crushed it.
Interesting. Oh, that's
I'm
cool.
sure they're probably still like around the $40 to $50 mark. But
just out of curiosity, it's just funny to like
hey
any
man,
event quiz. Wow,
been
TCG.
around card games for 20 some odd years. You see some weird shit.
Yeah,
You
there we go.
experience some weird shit.
So one on sale for 95 Canadian. So I guess that's about like like it was $70.
Yeah. So um,
Interesting.
there's pros and cons to digital and paper, and I think it as for your wallet, digital's better, but I think you get lazier design out of it.
Well,
Whereas
yeah, I mean, it's mind you, I guess like in terms of paper card games right now, what's the
the
king of the
premiere,
castle, right?
the
Yeah, I
premiere
guess.
is, I think it's still Magic. I don't know if Card Fight Vanguard is still like kicking, um, but you have a lot of like games that kind of blow up and then disappear again.
Mhm.
Yu-Gi-Oh will always be huge. Pokemon will always be huge, because they target a specific audience, and their competitive scenes aren't, they don't matter as much. Like
Yeah,
Pokemon can print 1,000 different Pikachu's and nobody gives a shit because like the kids want like the one that they want, and
yeah.
then that's it. Um, although I've played competitive Pokemon, weird weird game.
I used to play actually the most recent time that I played Pokemon TCG was I downloaded that you can play it online, and I
Yeah,
downloaded it like probably about a year ago, and I was like doing all the quests to get as much free, like free to play as possible and opening packs. And I was like, there's so much craziness in this. Not to mention drawing, like you could draw a bajillion cards in that game. It didn't even matter.
yes, it is the
You
game
just,
of draw as many cards as possible. But
yeah, it was crazy.
so
Gambling.
yeah, those are my thoughts on that subject that we had started earlier. But um, I know you
Well,
haven't played as much paper, so
no,
see.
but I'm getting sort of like when you said that there were 9 banned cards in like the previous sort of or a couple rotations of standard ago, I was like, that is insane. Because right now all I know is of like one or two. I was like, that seems responsible, card design. And I know that a lot of people were kind of crying foul about Nexus and Teferi and like get those garbage men out of the game. But I
Yeah,
mean,
so Nexus being like the way the card is designed is pretty meh. Like as far as what it does, it should not shuffle back in because
yeah,
it's the only one that does that.
yeah,
Except outside of maybe Beacon of Tomorrow. But the big thing about it was you didn't experience it in Arena and digital, but you experienced it in paper. You can only buy them as a box topper.
yeah.
You had to purchase a box in order to get it, and they were only available in foil.
Hmm.
So foils warp, and they warp pretty harshly when not taken care of. So if you buy a box maybe a month down the road, that foil could have been warped. If you go to play with that in a tournament, if none of your other cards are foil, a judge can come by, and if they can pick out where your Nexus is in your deck, it's considered a marked card.
Right.
So that's when you get the judge proxies of a mountain with Nexus written on it, which is perfectly legal to do, but that's I think what caused like the big kind of pushback of like, why are we doing foil box toppers that are not available in the pack and are only available here as foil? If you
I
wanted it
remember
in
that
the
because I
set, just
didn't.
put it in the set.
That one that came out with what M19, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I did my pre-order for the box and I never got my freaking.
You never got it.
No, I never got it. I showed up. I did a pre-order. I bought my box and I remember showing up for Guilds of Ravnica and I got my nice, beautiful, indestructible worm, but sits in a binder right now and looks at me stupid. But that's
All
about
right.
it.
Well, I think
Okay,
that's
man.
about it for the show. Everybody for watching. Real quick before we go, let's do some shout outs. Flake, buddy.
Yeah. Well, I'm
You're
gonna.
not
I guess
there.
there I am.
Yeah, you're
It's
there.
okay.
It's
Well,
okay.
I'm there in spirit. I
And
guess
there
you
in
can say.
spirit.
So yes, I just kind of there's my information though. It's all good, but I do appreciate honestly the chats, Frosty. Thanks for working on this cool setup and all this stuff. And I hope that no cereal companies want to sue us, but if they want to sponsor us, we're absolutely 100% open for that because we are part of a balanced breakfast. But yeah, cheers to you
Yes.
guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. You can catch me at streaming daily, Monday to Friday at usually 10 a.m. Eastern time at twitch.tv/WatchFlake or on Twitter at WatchFlake. So cheers to you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys, and you're here watching on this channel, so you know where I'm at, and I'm actually going to continue streaming after this. If you guys did miss any of the show, though, it will be up on YouTube, and I'm going to try and get up on Spotify as well in a few days. So thanks so much for hanging out, guys. And Flake, thank you for joining me. It's a lot of fun, and
Yeah, man.
hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you on next Friday.
Adios.